Hey guys, today we're in the book of Joshua, chapter 4. Now, we left yesterday with the 12 men who's holding the Ark of Covenant to be in the middle of the Jordan River that is now stopped up and has dammed up, and now Israel is going to pass. And when all the nation had finished passing over the Jordan, the Lord said to Joshua, take the 12 men from the people, and from each 12 command them, saying, take 12 stones from there. So where the priests were standing, they collect 12 stones. These would have not been little bitty stones. These would have been big monster boulder of a stone. They take these 12 stones and take them to the western shore, right? The eastern side is where they were. They're going to the western side. So they're going to take 12 stones around where the Ark of Covenant is and take them to the west side. And we see it says, take the stone upon your shoulder, talking about how big it is, because verse 6, this may be a sign for you. God is telling them to build a memorial, a semblance, a pile of rocks that would have been an example and a reminder of what happened here this day. Verse 9, then the people of Israel did just as Joshua commanded. He took up the 12 stones. They brought them out, and Joshua set up the 12 stones in the midst of the Jordan, in the place where the feet of the priests bearing the Ark of the Covenant. They are there to this day. So there are two memorials created on this day. One on the western bank. Okay, one on the western bank. The western bank would have been there, and we'll see in a minute why. Then Joshua created another memorial, just like the one on the western bank, the memorial in the center of the river, in the very center of the river where the water would be covered and nobody could see it. We'll talk about in a minute what these truly mean. But two memorials are made, one on the western bank, one in the center of the river that will be covered by the water. The people passed over in haste, and when the people had finished passing over the ark of the Lord, the priest passed over before the people. The sons of Reuben, the sons of Gad, the half-tribe of Manasseh passed over armed before the people of Israel, right? So the soldiers go first. Now Israel's going to go, and on that day the Lord exalted Joshua in the sight of Israel. He fulfilled what he promised yesterday in chapter 3, verse 7. And the Lord said to Joshua, command the priests bearing the ark of the testimony to come up out of the Jordan. So Joshua commanded them, and as soon as their feet were on dry ground and left the river, the kind of bottom of the river, it began to immediately overflow in its banks as before. Everything went back. So we can see the river, if it's flowing from the north to the south, right? They come in, they step into the river, the water begins to wall up, all of Israel crosses, and then the Ark of the Covenant goes out. As soon as they are out of the river path, this wall of water starts to come down and flows down into the Dead Sea, just as it has done before. Remember, this is less than 2 miles from Jericho. Okay, we'll see why this is important, but Jericho is watching this whole thing, right, with their binoculars. They're watching this out. They're seeing this miracle happen. People came up out of the Jordan on the 10th day of the first month. Now, I know you guys have your Jewish calendars out, but what happened on the 10th day of the first month? This takes us all the way back to Exodus chapter 12. This was the first day of the Passover. It has been 40 years to the day of the Passover that happened in Egypt that took Pharaoh's son and all the firstborn of Egypt. So exactly 40 years to the day. And they encamped at Gilgal on the east side of Jericho, but on the west side of the river. Gilgal is the place where they go from Shittim, they walk down to the river, they cross the river, and now they're at Gilgal, and Jericho is right here. Gilgal simply means round or circle or rolling, okay? Probably named after the memorial, the 12 stones that they used to make the memorial there on the west side. They probably made a big round ring or an altar of sorts that would have been called Gilgal, the place of the round. let's see, verse 20, and those stones, when they took out the Jordan, Joshua set up at Gilgal, and he said to the people of Israel, when your children ask their father in times to come, what do these stones mean? Then you shall let your children know that Israel passed over the Jordan on dry ground. For the Lord your God dried up the waters of the Jordan for you until they passed over, which he dried up for us until he passed over, so that all the peoples of the earth may know the hand of the Lord is mighty, and that you may fear the Lord your God. This rocks that were taken from the middle of the river and built on the west bank made this memorial. Then he said, it's not necessarily for you, it's for your kids and their kids and their kids and their kids. As you seem to travel, this will be an important place. And you think, well, how important? As you read the Bible, the Jordan River is a flowing river in the middle of a desert. Everybody follows the Jordan River. Even in Jesus' time, 1400 years after this, people still follow the Jordan River. And so they would follow the Jordan River all the way down to this place, and then they would take a left, and they would immediately go up to Jericho, and from Jericho, it's a 7-mile walk up to Jerusalem. And so it's a very quick walk. So God is setting up a statue of sorts so that for generation after generation, they will remember what God did here. God kept his promise, allowed them to come into the promised land, and he did it with signs and wonders of stopping up the Jordan. So I hope that makes a little bit more sense, but let's go back to these two memorials. One is built on the western bank that said, this is what God has done. He allowed us to come over, and it is a reminder for the generations. But what about that memorial that Joshua built in the middle of the river that will never be seen? It will never be seen. Why was there a memorial built there in the middle? Well, there's really an important point to this, right? Israel built the memorial on the western bank. Joshua, Yeshua, Jesus built the memorial in the middle of the river. It's a prophetic way of showing us about salvation. If you believe and trust and have faith in the Lord, you will follow him through the obstacles, and you will become salvation. You will get to the promised land. You will come to his salvation. But if you will not have faith in God, you will be stuck in the middle of the river. In the middle of the river, you're stuck there. You do not have faith to go to the other side. What happens? This wall of water, this judgment, this wrath will pour down on you, and it will cover you for eternity. And so here we simply see it must take faith to get to salvation. Those who are without faith will be buried and forgotten forever. So those who have faith will get to the promised land. Those who are without will be buried forever. And so do you want the blessing of the promised land? Do you want the blessing of God's presence? Do you want the blessing of faith? Do you want the blessing of all that there is in life on the west side of the Jordan? Or do you want the curse of non-faith, the curse of non-believing, the curse of being stagnant, of staying, the curse of the water and judgment pouring down and covering you forever? It is through faith and faith alone that we are saved. It is through faith that we believe that we could walk through the Jordan, because God is with us. He goes before us, so we should be strong and courageous in faith. Hope that makes a little bit more sense. And gives you a little glimpse of Jesus building these memorials and giving us a prophetic look of what he will preach when he comes to earth in the Gospels, right? Hope that makes sense. We will see you tomorrow in chapter 5. God bless.